Hey there guys, and welcome back to episode 15 of City Skylines New Zealand. Hope you guys are doing really well, and in this episode we are putting a brand new train line in pretty much right through the middle of downtown, which was as much work as you'd probably think it was. And I start the episode here with a fair bit of new terraforming, and the idea behind this was this is where the bottom of the lake, which is called Lake Wakatipu, comes out, but it leaves this horrible blank area where it meets the edge of the map. And because it's so close to the city, I really try and make all of my shots face away from this direction. That's how bad it is, so I think I've got to do something with it, and hence the terraforming here. I've also had a few comments regarding Fiordland and maybe how I could incorporate that into the city. So what I've done with this terraforming here is I've made a narrow channel to allow my ships to still make it into the port, but I've made these huge mountain ranges, or I wouldn't call them mountain ranges, they're a little bit shorter, and I've covered them in trees, which you'll see later in the episode, just to try and create a little bit of that Fiordland vibe. And I think I will revisit this area again in future and detail it much more than what we do in this episode, but this changes the backdrop of the city dramatically, as you would imagine. But one of the other key points with this was I didn't want it to disrupt the view to the Remarkables. That had to remain the same as what it is right now. It had to be bang on. That was definitely one of the criteria. And in between Fiordland and the main southern road in, which is on the right hand side of the shot you're looking at, I've also flattened out the land here, and I'm planning on expanding the city through this little wee valley here towards the edge of the map, and that will follow along where the main road is. And this is exactly where we're bringing our train line in from today. It's going to run through some rural paddocks and then through a small suburban area. These two areas will be built in future at some stage, and then it comes through into downtown. So the downtown part is what we focus on in this episode. So now you just see me placing down the trees and stuff, and I'm a little bit slow to the mod, the tree brush. I knew that it was there and I knew that I could do this quicker, but I didn't think it was worth a whole mod just to be able to do this, to be honest. But now that I've got this, it is absolutely amazing. I will never play this game without it. There's just so many mods and assets out there, you just wish you could download them all. It's crazy. So I've recently just upgraded from 32 to 64 gigs of RAM as well. So what's the first thing I do? I'm straight in the Steam workshop just jamming up my new memory with assets I don't need. I think I need Steam AA or something. Man, I really hope I'm not the only one that has this problem though. Yeah. Anyway, you see me placing in the train line here, and because I'd built my central station with just two platforms, and I've sort of wedged it in an area where I can't build that third platform, I've had to just make another rail line running off the second one here, and then had it enter into a tunnel, and that's when I turn it round and take it into the new area that we end up clearing for this train line very shortly. I wanted to make these train tunnels as short as I possibly could, because when we look at these train tunnels in New Zealand, there's no really extravagant ones. The train tunnels that I've viewed on Google Earth have all been very necessary and very logical, so I'm keeping them as short as I possibly can. So I clear a fair area of the surface so that I can have the train line running in view. And of course, being City Skylines players, we like watching the trains as much as we can. I prefer them to be on the surface as opposed to in tunnels. I decided on taking the rail line across the edge of the port area here. This one-way road that it's following here is really the border between the port area and the downtown, and because I've left most of this area here unbuilt, it's given me a lot of flexibility over how to approach this in future now that it has a rail line installed. The only real jiggling around I had to do is what you see me do here, is just moving some of these port buildings over a little bit to allow for this line to come in. It seemed like such a perfect area to bring it in. It was close enough to downtown and running in the right direction, but it fits the vibe of the industrial area or the port area perfectly. wanted to do something really different with the rail, at least through one part of the downtown area. So I was scouring around on Google Earth and I found this area in a suburb of Auckland City called New Lynn, and it's got this really cool piece of rail that runs underground with these beams as supports, probably for the retaining walls either side of it, but it runs right next to a road and right up to a couple of car parks and pretty much right through a commercial area. And looking at this on Google Earth, I pictured it in the city straight away. It's really interesting. It's only a short build, or what I thought would be a short build, and let's face it, there's nothing cooler than a train running across a really cool bridge or through an interesting part of your downtown. You know, it's really cool. I think what appeals to me about the trains is the fact that working on the train tracks and where they run is animated when the train comes through. And for me, when you work for so long on one particular build and then you see it animated at the end when it's all finished, that animation, whether it's the Sims walking in and out of it, or you've built a cable car or a ski field or whatever it may be, that animation for me really brings the creation to life, and I really enjoy seeing that. And with trains being such a fundamental part of most cities, it's just so cool to be working on this, and it was really enjoyable. So now that the train line through this particular area here is complete, I can come back and start detailing it a little bit more. And when it comes to the detailing, I generally start with the main things, so like retaining walls in this instance, and then we start going down into trees and car parks and fences and that sort of thing. Another thing that I really try and do in the city is I try and have a lot of variety between different things, and this can be something that I struggle with quite often is using the same retaining walls because they're easy to use or whatever. You don't see the same type of walls everywhere in the same place in a city. It's not realistic, so the variety part can be difficult sometimes, but I try and change it up, making different walls, using different buildings, using different combinations of buildings with procedural objects and stuff like that is a good idea to mix things up. And I guess the other thing worth mentioning with that said is don't make it too perfect. Nothing in a realistic city is too perfect, Things, don't be too fussed if things don't meet up exactly right, or that's a little wee bit short, or just go with your gut feeling. If it's a very visible fence, it might be a different story, but generally things aren't perfect in real life. And certainly one of the challenges with this game and building a realistic city is making areas look like they're used beaten and aged right from, the moment we make them, which is difficult. So don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with building a beautiful, crisp, sparkling, white, clean, beautiful city. But if you're building a realistic city, don't be afraid to not be perfect. And also don't be afraid to try your own thing. We want to see what you build. Don't build what other people have seen. We want to see what you build. You're different from everyone, and I'm sure you've got something great to offer this community. Whether it's just screenshots that you share, or cities you show your friends on your phone, or maybe you have a YouTube channel. Do your thing, man. I received a comment from Ryan a couple of episodes ago explaining that the way that I had put the Beehive here, which is a very famous government building here in New Zealand, the way that I'd placed it in the city in an earlier episode was pretty disrespectful, and he also said he was never going to watch another one of my videos ever again. Nah, I'm just kidding. Nah, he didn't say that at all, and I completely agree with him. I really did just chuck it in the city, so here you see me place it in a little bit more graciously. And we also developed some pretty fancy looking grounds around it as well. And I had another comment, or a couple of comments, regarding a New Zealand government house and maybe placing it around the basin on the corner of the roundabout that we made. So you'll see me put that in as well, and I spend a little bit of time also making those grounds a little bit fancy, and we go a little bit further with the government house and put in some ponds and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, I had so much issues with putting these in for one reason or another. It's not even worth going into. That I didn't include the cinematics for the government house, unfortunately, but I've got some really nice cinematic shots coming up very shortly. I should also mention that these buildings are made by Elitags, both the Beehive and the government house that you'll see a bit later on, and they have done an outstanding job. I mean, all of their buildings are fantastic, but these ones are just next level. Really pleased. And I know that Elitags is a big fan of the series, so thank you so much, mate. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 15, and thank you so much for tuning in. I have a lot of people watching that don't subscribe, so if you happen to be one of those people, you could consider subscribing. That would be fantastic. And to my current subscribers, thank you so much. You guys are fueling my fire, keeping me going, and I really appreciate it. I hope to see all of you guys in the next episode, so look after yourselves, and we'll see you then. Bye.